Welcome everybody to the Daily Intimacy. What were you going to say?
Just nice to see you too.
Oh, thanks. It really has been a while. Yeah, so welcome everybody. Let's do a brief centering and then we'll get started. If you haven't checked in the chat and you would like to, would love to hear from you. You can even just put like a word about how you're feeling. Even just one word. It's always good to know. All right, so wherever you are and however you are, I invite you to have a breath and gently close your eyes. And breathe with me and connect to the earth beneath your feet, beneath where you're sitting or lying down. I invite you to open up all of your channels to receive. Maybe that includes the bottoms of your feet, the back of your body, the crown of your head. And the front, all around you. I invite you to soften and open and have the intention to open to receive. And you might feel more energy moving through your energy field and your physical body, or you might not feel anything, and that's okay. Because just holding your intention and breathing allows you to receive more deeply. And honestly, I think all of our experiences here as humans have to do with how open we are to receive. As you bring your attention again to the earth beneath you, most of us are in spring. I did hear about some colder weather yesterday, but most of us are in spring. So just invite that springtime energy up from the earth through the bottoms of your feet. Allow it to travel up the body and out the crown of your head. And do that a couple of times. Notice if there's any sensation at the top of your head. There often is for me, which I know is an invitation to just open a little bit more. Feel that connection, the safety of doing so. And then bring your attention way above, up to the sky, maybe even beyond, to the sun, the moon, maybe even another galaxy. And just allow that energy to trickle down and come in to your field through the crown of your head. And then tuning into nature a little bit more. I don't know if you can hear birds chirping by you or you can hear mine that are outside my window, but let's tune into all the animals out there, the birds, the bunny rabbits, the fox, the coyote, whatever the animals are that you're seeing in your gardens and your maybe the fields or the forests behind you. We've got squirrels and cats and of course puppies, but more out in nature. The birds, particularly present for me this morning. bringing their playfulness into my energy field. So I invite you to bring that into yours as well. And lastly, let's tune into water. Perhaps you have some nearby where you are right now, or just a favorite spot on the planet, a running brook or stream, an ocean, a lake, a pond, just connecting to water and flow and receiving from that energy. Deep, 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 deep breath in. Let all of that energy seep into your body, awaken you this morning, and invite you to gently open your eyes. And I'd actually love to hear how you're feeling after opening to more deeply receiving. If you would like to put something in the chat, it would be great. Maybe there was one part of that that really, like that you felt reverberating in your body more strongly, like the earth or the birds or the water or the sun and the moon. Like what was feeding you this morning that felt like, yeah, I want that, I need that, I love that. Or just was it everything? Checking in from Lynn with a 7. Homemade biscuits against healthcare. Yeah. Aggravation. I get it. The critters. Yeah. Connecting to animals as they go about living their lives. Yeah, the animals, right? They don't let anything bother them. They just, they get in a fight, they move on. They don't find food, they look for another place. They fall in the water, they get out. Humans, we like hold on to everything. Animals are like, whatever. Wonderful teachers. Water brought me calm, relax, so calm. Yeah, I love the animals. Yeah. Space brought a lot of energy. Good. Yeah, wonderful. Processing all the elements and allowing balance throughout. Yes. I love that you said space, Leslie Ann. We're going to be working, those of you that are in the monthly learning and practice group, we're going to really be working with space and bringing in the good energy. Yeah. Good morning, Pat in Springfield. Welcome back. You're back in Springfield too. Reaching through the sky, beyond our universe, feeling so much love and energy all around. Wonderful. Yay for more love. That's what we're going for, of course. Okay, so yay. So most of you know this is the second to last daily intimacy for the time being. We'll see. Somebody asked, what are we going to do in the fall? And all I can say is I'll be tuning into that when it gets closer. And very excited. I actually spoke with Becky about the daily intimacy probably almost a year ago. And I'm really glad I checked back in because I'm so glad to have you part of this. Becky Vollmer is somebody that I met, I want to say sort of by accident because it was, but there are no accidents. Absolutely everything is purposeful. And what happened was it was 2020 at Kripalu? Yeah. So no, it was 2019 at Kripalu.
I don't know what day it is anymore, much less the year.
So I went to Kripalu with my friend Susie, and I was planning just to do R&R, and she really wanted to do a workshop. So I said, sure, pick one. And it was like, okay, let's do this one. And it was called You Are Not Stuck. And it was about the description as I remember it, which I won't remember it right, of course. Not that there's anything wrong, was about, loosening up the places in your life that you feel stuck. And I didn't really think that I had, I wasn't consciously thinking like, yes, I want to do this workshop because I have this thing and I feel stuck. I was just like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it. And so Becky was facilitating this 3-day workshop over New Year's. which is a wonderful time to be at Kripalu, by the way, when they open again. There's lots of chanting and of course, lots of yoga, but a lot of great energy over New Year's Eve. And Susie and I took this workshop, and lo and behold, oh my God. I mean, I'm a cry, you know, I let myself cry. I let myself, like, one of my things is like, I can move emotion, you know, big emotion, and holy shit, I touched stuff so deep that was right there ready to be released. I had these huge aha moments about what I needed actually to work towards and shift in my life. And honestly, Becky, like the stuff that I worked on then has really actualized in my life. I was working on self-care. I was working on releasing more things around my mother's transition, which happened really early. And like a year and a half later, like, honestly, I will write you a testimonial. Like it really stuck. It didn't close up after the weekend, the 3 days that we had together. So very, very powerful for me. And I just completely fell in love with Becky. And I want to add one more piece. I don't want to take up all your time, but I said to her right away, I said, do you teach yoga online? Because I love your yoga classes. And she was like, no, I just teach locally, you know, in Missouri where I live. And I was like, okay. So the pandemic shows up, and I'm, thinking about, how to manage my time and what practices I want to do and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, Becky. So I reached out to Becky. I'm like, are you doing classes online? She's like, I am. So I was so happy, and am so happy. And Becky teaches 3 to 4 classes online every week. And if I could do all of them, I would, because they're absolutely fantastic. Like gentle and deep and loving and spacious. That's the feeling that I get all the time when I practice with you. So thank you. Thank you for the awareness that you had in your life that allowed you to make such a big transition for yourself. I don't know if you're going to tell that story, but into, really who you are and your gifts. So thank you.
My goodness. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about receiving. I received that with so much gratitude. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. I don't know if you're going to share a little bit about that story of, what you were doing and how that transition. I mean, if you want.
Sure, I certainly can. I guess that's a nice place for me to take it over from here. And first thing I'll say is good morning and welcome. And I'm looking at all of your faces on here in the gallery view, and it's just really nice to meet you all. So I'm just sort of taking a second and, waving hi and greeting each one of you. I see that. It's also nice to be here in my home office. Robyn, I'm not sure that you've ever seen this space, because usually I'm coming to you from my living room. And yeah, so as Robyn said, when the pandemic came upon us all, I transitioned from teaching, not just here in St. Louis, Missouri, where I live, but kind of all over the country at retreat centers and yoga studios, doing weekend workshops and retreats. And yeah, so for these last, 14, 15 months, it has been teaching from my living room, which is a really odd dynamic to share something as, as big as yoga and everything that entails for me. And those, everybody on the other side of the computer screen, to be having that in such a tiny little intimate space. If you haven't done an online practice since we've all been home, I encourage it, just for the change of pace. Before I keep talking, I guess I'd love to ask you all, how many of you have a yoga practice or have had? I'm seeing maybe half or so. Okay, fabulous. Christian, never had. Oh, good. Oh, good. I had my very first yoga practice when I was about, I was 27 years old. I was going through a divorce, and I moved, out of the home I'd been living in to a little tiny apartment, and I was alone. And I was like, I was incredibly stressed out and lost and didn't know kind of who I was, where I'd just been, where I was going. And I needed something to ground me. And those of you who've been practicing a while, you'll appreciate this. I had a Rodney Yee VHS tape that I popped in the what do you even call this? In the VCR. And there was something about, like, I could not touch my toes. I didn't understand the whole breathing business. My mind was like, I've got things to do. But I really liked something about the sound, the sound of what I now know to be a singing bowl. And that's what drew me back. And that thought that I would really like to touch my toes. Like 27 is too young to not be able to touch one's toes. And so I kept doing that same practice. And then I was like, oh, you know what? I had to get another one. So I got another VHS tape. And then I got a Patricia Walden VHS tape. Do you remember? In like the all white unitard, And I was like, wow, she's got something like in here and in here and in here that I really, really like. Like, I'm going to keep doing this. And eventually it wasn't about touching my toes anymore. It was about like coming to this place of like, And Robyn, when you were centering us, like you took me there back to those early days. I mean, that was 20 years ago. And just that feeling of, it didn't matter what I did in my body. It mattered how I was paying attention and how I felt kind of in through here. And from that moment, I was like, I want to keep this in my life. So fast, I'll give you the very brief, at Robyn's request, kind of how I got to where I am. I'll tell you what I'm not anymore. I'm no longer, I'll tell you what I was, right? Professionally, my training, I was a journalist. So I was a newspaper reporter and editor for years. And then I worked for 15 or so years in, public relations, strategic communications, crisis communications. I wore power heels. I was always very coiffed and, buttoned up, kind of like I had a giant stick up my ass, honestly. And after, I was teaching, I was trained, I'd been practicing yoga. I got trained to teach yoga. It was something I tried to balance, like, oh, I'll just teach yoga a little bit over here, but over here I'll have like this, corporate, I was corporate Becky. And at the same time, I was mom Becky. I was on the inside, miserable and depressed Becky. I was alcoholic Becky. I was just living a lie Becky. And the place where I found myself was in my yoga practice, was in my breath. And so kind of, I won't say on a whim, but that would be very unfair. I would, let's say after 5 or 6 years of like intense, heavy hand wringing, what do I do? What should I do? I hate this. I want that instead, but I didn't know how to transition from this to that, because this, this was sort of this, that was my path, right? That was the path I'd been walking. It was the only path I knew. And it was all about ambition and progress and forward movement toward a goal. And I didn't understand that we all have the ability to stop, look around, reassess, reprioritize, change our minds, shift directions, pick something different. I didn't understand that. It's what I desperately wanted, but I didn't think I could. And so one day I took a trip with some girlfriends. We were in San Francisco walking along the beach, kind of, Golden Gate Bridge there in the foreground. And it's like a Friday morning, and I'm thinking, there's all these people on the beach. I'm thinking, why aren't they at work? Like they were just like playing catch with their dog, or like sitting watching the water. Or there was this one family that is like a dad with a little boy. He couldn't have been more than 2 years old or so, and he was like throwing him up in the air and catching him, and the kid was just so joyful. And I started sobbing because I had 2 little girls at home at that point. They were 5 and 3. And I just said to my friend, like, that's what I want right there. And she was like, so if what you're doing isn't working, why don't you do something different? I was like, what? She's like, yeah, like if you don't like it, then change it. And you're do something else, because you're smart and you're marketable and you'll figure it out. And I mean, there I was like 39 years old, a mother of 2 children. And I didn't know that I had that as an option. I mean, my jaw was like in the sand. And, at this point, that was 8 or 9, that was 8 years ago. And I can look back on that and be like, oh my gosh, you poor thing. I just kind of want to pat my old self on the head. You poor thing. How blind you were, your little blinders, and they just sort of kept you, they kept you in a place where you didn't belong. Poor thing. But it is very easy to remember that deep sense of powerlessness that I felt over my own life. It is really easy to remember a time when I felt like I had no agency whatsoever. And so from that moment, deciding, you know what, I'm going to jump. I'm going to jump without a net. I've got no plan B. I'm going to do this. And I did. And it's been, I would say it sparked the great unraveling of my life, which has been the best gift, driven so strongly by my yoga practice and the wisdom of the philosophy and the remembering of my divinity and your divinity, and being guided by not so much fear anymore. But maybe you've heard the saying, you're a meat-coated skeleton made of stardust. What do you have to be scared of? I started living my life by that guidance. You're a meat-coated skeleton made of stardust. What do you have to be scared of? I was like, well, nothing really. When you frame it that way, I've got nothing to be afraid of. So the big shift I made was saying goodbye to corporate America, saying hello to my yoga practice and the gift to be able to share it with other people. And I quit drinking. I left that marriage. Everything's different now. All because I'm a meat-coated skeleton made of stardust. And so I teach workshops that blend sort of that empowerment, that sense of sovereignty and agency, and really holding choice as the centerpiece of our lives. Really not just, easy choices, but those deep soul guided choices that require a whole heck of a lot of excavation and just real deep questions that we don't normally pause long enough to ask about what are our values, what are our priorities, how are we going to live them out, how will we measure our life when we're dead. The way I'd measure it now versus the way I'd measure it 20 years ago, vastly different. But that's actually not what I came here to talk about today. What I came here to talk about today was more of that meat-coated skeleton piece, and how we can use that, just that belief. For me, it's a sense of knowing now. In the beginning, it wasn't. It was more of a something somebody told me that I was like, okay, that sounds nice. Yeah. All right, I'm divine. Cool. And it wasn't something that had been ingrained in me from a young age. Any of you, again, I'm looking around the screen, did you grow up with everybody telling you you're divine being and you are sovereign and you can design the life of your dreams? Or did you grow up sort of thinking like, because I said so, this is what you're expected to do, this is what everybody will think if you don't, all those fears that you have about, other people's expectations, yeah, those are real, right? Yeah, don't rock the boat, for sure. There is such an inner empowerment that comes with adopting the belief that hopefully eventually becomes the knowing that I don't say this from any sense of ego. In fact, I say this from absolutely no sense of ego. I am God. I am God. Robyn, you are God. Richard, you are God. Denise, God. Christian, God. Leslie Ann, God. Mitchell, God. Crystal, God. In here. Yeah, a spiritual being in a temporary physical body. And so that's been the gift of yoga for me. And that's what I'm reminded of every time I sit in a setting like with Robyn and she guides me past this whirring machine of baloney and into instead this beating heart, these organs, this bag of skin, like deeper in there where there is this, oh my God. Do you ever have a moment where all of a sudden you're listening to yourself speak and you think, I never thought I'd be sitting here talking to people about the cosmic energy within my heart center? And yet, yeah, the cosmic energy within my heart center. And all those people who haven't been indoctrinated yet, those are the people I want to pat on the head now, because they haven't felt it yet. And oh God, when they do, the new depth, the new space, the new expansiveness, the new permission, the new divinity that they will feel will be worth all of the waiting that they had to endure before they realized it. So Can I stop talking for a minute and take us to a place? I want to go back to where Robyn had us, that place in our breath. Maybe we could close our eyes together. Yeah, so sit tall or lie down if you like. And to get started, I'm going to ask you to bring your hands to your side ribs. And like you're pinching your side ribs, just for a little biophysical guidance, where this would be like bra strap for the ladies. So gents, you have to imagine right there around the ribs. And I know it makes the shoulders feel like they're hunched up. Breathe into that. Send the shoulders way up high to the ears. And then exhale and lower the shoulders down away from the ears and let the chin fall to the chest. Let the shoulders and ears move farther away from one another. Notice if you're feeling this down your arm. And then bring your gaze back up to neutral. I'm going to ask you to give yourself a hug with your right hand reaching over for your left shoulder. Left hand to the right shoulder, and drop your chin to your chest again. Breathe into your back ribs here. And bring your gaze back up and just switch the cross of your arms. So now you've got the left elbow on the top and the right elbow on the bottom. Let the chin return down to the chest. Breathe so deeply here into yourself, into your physical body. And then come back up and let your hands release down. You can keep your eyes closed if you like, or if you are more inclined to follow the verbal cues, or less inclined, you can open your eyes. I want you to take your fingertips and bring them to your upper chest and feel your collarbones. And then you're going to walk your fingertips just down below the collarbones and kind of press hard. And as you feel the fingertips rest there, just below the collarbones at the top of the pec muscles, you're going to anchor those fingers there very hard. And as you inhale, I'm going to invite you to lift your chin so that you can begin to stretch your throat and let the fingers stay anchored even as the skin beneath them moves. And breathe all the way in and pull the fingers down the chest wall. And then release. And we'll do that again. Walk your fingers up just below the collarbones, anchor them down. And then use your in-breath to let your chin float up. Your gaze, your inner gaze reaching up to the sky. Stretching the throat. Oh my, and feel all of that tension in the chest wall. And do that one more time, just right here below the collarbones. Andrew, maybe a little lower right here, just beneath them. All right, anchoring down and lifting and stretching. And release. All right, now I'm going to ask you to take your right arm out to the side. You're this seated. You could do it standing up if you want, but seated is just fine. You're going to take your right arm And you're going to have the arm down at about a 45-degree angle. And you're going to push out through the heel of your hand, which will bring your fingertips coming back up towards your shoulder. And you might feel a stretch there in the bicep. Yes? Feel that? Take a deep breath in all through the front chest wall and exhale that out. Keep pushing through the heel of the hand. And then breathe in again. And as you do that, we're going to gently allow the left ear to come over to the left shoulder. Oh, heavens, you feel that coming down the arm? We can let the ear come down a little more toward the left shoulder. Oh, and then come on up and release. Roll the shoulders a couple of times forward and back. And then now out to the right side. It occurs to me that Zoom, I'm trying to mirror you, but this is actually this is your right side, yes? This is your left side. That's what I thought. Okay. But you guys are, anyway, out the left hand, 45-degree angle, push through the heel of the hand, bring the fingers back towards you, spread your fingers wide, open up your whole forearm there. And then we're just gently gonna let the right ear, oh my, let it just come down. What do you notice there? Breathe into what you notice. Robyn talked earlier about channels. This is a channel to open up. And then release and come on back up. We're going to take back to the first side. So the right hand out, dropping the left ear over to the left shoulder. And then we're going to shift our gaze. We're going to turn the head to look down toward the floor underneath your left shoulder. You'll feel it on the right side of the neck. Now we're going to go even deeper here. You're going to lift your chin, just raise your gaze. Oh, and then you can play around with the angle of your chin and your head, kind of lifting it up and down or rotating it. And as you're breathing here, remembering that you are embodied. And so, yes, the muscles and the bones and the tissues all have something to say about this experience. But with the breath, we're just trying to get beneath all of that. Connecting the body, spirit in this moment. And then release that down. You may notice, anybody feel a little tingling going up the arm? Yeah, some nerves that might be impinged there. So more of this is over time a good thing to open that channel. All right, let's go back, sending the left hand out, right ear to right shoulder. Deepen your breath. And then we'll shift that gaze, rotate your gaze down to the floor under the right shoulder. And then lifting the chin there, raising the gaze. And then take about 5 breaths and just play. Breathe deeper. And then release and come back up. You're going to make some pinchers here. And you're going to grab on to your trapezoids. So the tops of these big triangular muscles here, you're going to pinch just a great big bit of flesh. I hope we all shaved. Just kidding. Okay, pinch and maybe rub, like squeeze your thumbs. But if you just grab a little bit of flesh and then let it go and then grab it again and pinch it, notice if you feel something coming up the back of your head, up the back of your neck, maybe. Keep just pinching and squeezing. And notice the quality of those tissues. Are they supple? Are they like steel beams? Oh, yes. All right, release that. And I'm going to turn around just to give you a visual here. Keep working these fingertips. If you just pet the back of your head and you feel here at the base of the skull, this is called the occipital ridge, just beneath the base of the skull, sort of like when we were here at the collarbones, just beneath the collarbones. If you bring your fingers down just beneath the base of the skull, you're going to feel something there. I just want you to press in there. Just press in there, hold it, and just sort of drag that down. Rake your fingers down there. And do that again. Come back to the base of the skull. And you might even palpate to feel like, is there a spot there? If you touch it, that's like, oh yeah, that's it. That's the spot. So you're going to press and hold and then rake those fingers down. And then once more, base of the occipital ridge. Find a spot that really wants the love, and then rake it down. And then you're gonna just shift and take your thumbs there and all around. Move your thumbs into little circles and your fingertips too, just to massage the back of your skull. I hope you don't care about your hair today. Just move it around. Did you know there could be so much tension at the top of your scalp? Oh my goodness, work that out. Oh, if there's a little place where it's like, oh, more, please, give it. Okay, release. So for those of you who are thinking, wait, that's yoga? We didn't do a warrior pose. We didn't do a triangle pose. Like we didn't balance on our hands or our head. Yeah, you don't have to. But the question is, were you here while we did that? Were you present? Were you in your body? All right. I invite you to close your eyes. Place a hand over your heart and then another hand on top of that. I want you to breathe into the idea of your meat-coated skeleton. If you look at it as a discrete piece of you, it is objectively a little weird. This bag of bones, the skin covering all of the tissues and the fluids inside. Just thinking of the gross mass of us, and I don't mean gross as in disgusting, I just mean the gross as opposed to subtle. The physical mass of us. This is the packaging. This is the vehicle that gives us the human experience. The good news is that we've all got weird packaging. Different, but the same. When I think of our packaging, I'm reminded of something wise that an old colleague once said to me in a completely different context. He said, I think I was complaining one day about a colleague's shortcomings. And he said to me very kindly, he said, we don't all share the same gifts in the same proportions. And I thought, isn't that the most beautiful way of looking at the whole world? We don't all share the same gifts in the same proportions. And as we think of our bodies, the bag of bones, that is very true, right? Some of us have a greater proportion of fat to muscle, or the proportion of our upper body to our lower body, or the way some of us have 20/20 eagle eyesight and some of us wear glasses as thick as Coke bottles. Some of us are nimble and agile and have really great hand-eye coordination. Some of us not so much. It's all good. It's all good. I'm going to invite you now to take these hands and just move them in different places on the bag of bones. Feel the arm bones. Feel the shoulders and the chest, and feel the ribs. Feel the belly and the legs. Feel it all. We get one skin suit, right? It doesn't have to look like anybody else's skin suit, but it does have to be honored because it's the vehicle. And so I invite you throughout your daily practice, if you were to just spend 2 minutes giving yourself some loving touch, whether it's just running the palm up the inside of the arm, doesn't that feel nice? Or giving yourself that hug. Especially in these crazy COVID times when we've been so isolated. So you can sit and honor and love the body. And you can also move it through triangle pose and warrior pose. The point is just to see it and love it, because it's one of the ways we love ourselves. I'm going to ask you to bring your palms together and start to rub them vigorously, generating some heat between the palms. And then bring those warm hands, cup them over your eyes. And then you can slowly begin to open your eyes in darkness, maybe spreading your fingers to let some light in. And lower your hands down. Yeah. Can I just pause here and ask you how you feel? I see some smiles. Pat, I love your smile. Karen, I love your smile. One of the ways we get deeper into the divine being is to give this all of the love, gentleness, acceptance, kindness, attention that it deserves. Right? We change the oil in our car. We put gas in it and give it a tune up every 50,000 miles. And it takes us where we want to go. So does this. And by paying attention to this, we get to pay attention to this, and this. So those of you who are familiar with yoga, you've probably heard before the idea of the 8 limbs of yoga, you know, the 8-limbed path of yoga. You know, it starts with the rules, the guidelines for, you know, how we ought to treat ourselves and how we ought to treat others. And then we move into this body stuff. And from the body stuff, we move into this breath stuff. It's called pranayama. And then from the breath stuff, we move into the mind stuff. And we do things like we pay attention, we concentrate, we notice, all taking us toward meditation and eventually enlightenment and bliss, right? Eventually. But if you think about that progression of the practice, starting with the body and then going to the breath and then going up here, you get to see the wisdom of why we start with the bag of bones. The idea is if you can control the body, you can control the breath. And if you can control the breath, you can control the mind. And that's where we get into the real magic of yoga. And empowerment and choice, freedom. So who would have thought that some silly little neck stretches could put us on our path to freedom? I've got my eye on the clock and I know we're probably coming close on time.
Yeah. Go ahead.
No, I just would love to, you know, I'm a yoga teacher without, yes, I have classes, but without the ability to be with my people. And I would really like to hear from you guys.
Yeah. We have a couple minutes. Anybody who wants to unmute and share even a word or two, it'd be great to hear your voices today. And all the writing in the chat has been absolutely fabulous also. Whew, that was amazing for me. I feel so good. I yawned like 20 times.
So I wasn't putting you to sleep?
No.
I wasn't boring you to death?
So much energy moving out. It was so great. Anybody want to say anything? Or make a sound like, Go ahead, Christian.
Yeah, I've been thinking a lot about the last year and the inward pulling that we've all had to do to keep ourselves safe, keep ourselves healthy, keep the other people in our lives healthy and safe. And the challenge of opening back up again as things become safer, and the big difference between those two words, safe and safer, and the energy that it actually takes to stay patient and centered as we move through this, this transitional period that we're in right now. I think we 2020 was this, year-long liminal space.
It was just 1 year. It felt like more than 1 year to me.
And now we're in this other liminal space, right? This big transition from closed to open, and navigating that puts a lot of tension for me in my lower back and up in my shoulders. So these practices are very helpful in dealing with that, and also just sort of helping me stay focused and present and patient for the next month and the next month after that. So thank you.
Thank you for sharing that, Christian. It's really important things you said. I think I just want to ground what you said, like we're in transition. We're in that transitional space. And that is something different than the other space we were in, and then the next space. Yeah, thank you for that. We are right at 10, and so I know, Becky, you have a class in half an hour.
In half an hour, I don't know how strict you are in the time limits. I feel like I talked so much that I would love to keep it open for other folks. I can go another 15 minutes if you all are able. Robyn, if you're able.
Yeah, I am. And anybody who wants to depart, blessings. Have a lovely day. I'll see you next week for our last daily intimacy for now. And Mitchell.
So for me,